Well, it's official. I know we did talk about this last week, but it's been 7 days since, and Donald J. Trump is, as they say, president-elect come the end of January. He will be the leader of the free world. I get a shiver up my spine when I say that. Shiver of nerves going up my spine. But he won. It's fair and square. It's over and done with based on the American system. Although it may appear that Hillary Clinton ends up with perhaps up to 2% more of the popular vote, i.e. people who voted for her, than him. The system that they've got is, I guess, not similar to, but akin to our old first past the post back in the day. He got fewer votes, but won more states. He is the president, and I thought Dominic George would have a little bit of a quick chat with. I'm seeing lots of rhetoric on my Facebook page and in the media at the moment around no one has to be worried. You know, there are checks and balances. Donald Trump, yes, he's in, but the stuff he was saying before the election is not going to happen. We don't have to be worried about it. I think that's a really fascinating situation. Your take first.
Well, I mean, how's it going to unfold? This is great. Isn't it good to sit back in this part of the world and just watch this theatre play out, because it is quite fascinating. I've actually found the fallout from it to be equally as compelling as the lead up, and we know how infatuated we all were with the lead up to it. But it is interesting because don't the Republicans now pretty much control the whole kit and caboodle when it comes to the strands of power in US politics?
Yeah, so 3 branches of government, so basically they control all 3 of them. And I actually wonder, just to ponder, now I got the election predictions wrong, so maybe my ponderances mean less than nothing now. They used to be nothing, but now they're less than nothing. But I still have the ponderance, the wonderings, that they're very good at blocking things, the Republicans. They're very good at getting in the way and stopping things from happening. But now that they've got all 3 branches of government from the start of next year, it's all on them.
Oh, well, they have. I mean, there are no excuses now. You can't now blame the other team, can you, if you can't get things through that you want to get through? And
I think it's more than that, just getting things through, because they'll get through whatever they want. But I now think that, you know, there's always arguments that Obama did this even though the Senate was in the Republican, you know, backwards and forwards, that it was Obama that shut down the government when it was the Republicans who wouldn't vote for it. So now there's no one to blame for it. So now when you're investing in things, there's a thing called a flyer. If you invest in a flyer, what it basically means is you're investing in something that'll either be 100% really successful or it'll be worth nothing, right? So that's a flyer investment. This is a bit like that. He'll either do really well, I can't see it happening, but he'll either do really well or it'll be an absolute disaster. And the thing is, if it's an absolute disaster, it's 100% on the Republicans. And I actually wonder if that's going to be a real problem for them in 4 and 8 years' time, and during the midterm elections as well.
It may well be, but let's take a look then at those promises that he was allegedly voted on. You know, some people say that, you know, look at the well-known ones, the wall, for example. So if these promises are carried out, then America's going to be a very, very interesting sort of almost a fascist state in a lot of ways, isn't it? And if they don't, and he is far more moderate and all the checks and balances that people are saying don't worry, well then isn't he going to completely then really pee off his constituency that voted him in?
Well, there is a core base who does want to see that wall being built. Ironically, there already is conversation around parts of it being a fence and parts of it being manned with unmanned aircraft. So in other words, they're already not talking about a wall. And everyone said that before the election. Watch, all the comedians, John Oliver priced out what it would cost to build a wall and said it would never happen. All his supporters, who are the core supporters, not necessarily the people who voted tactically, but the core supporters have said there has to be a wall. So yes, you're right. If he doesn't do what he said he would do, all those people are going to be angry with him.
And then, if he doesn't do what he said he was going to do, then it was just all rhetoric and all the stuff that they heard before. That's typical politician speak. You could say, oh, you always promise this and you never deliver what you say on your election promises. You stood on this and you have failed to deliver this. Well, this could really be a classic case of all of that if he's checked and balanced the way that some are suggesting.
And the problem that he faces is really if he wants to try and unite America, which I don't think he necessarily does, but if he wants to be re-elected, he'll need to have some kind of effort to reunite some part of America. The only way he can do that is to cancel what he said. And I think it's important now. We talked at the start of this piece about some people are nervous about his presidential run, and why would that be? Let's see some of the things that Donald Trump actually promised to do which were the promises he made to get him elected. Let's have a look at Q6 there, Tim. So he promised to build a border wall between Mexico and the United States, and of course Mexico would pay for it. He promised to deport 11 million immigrants, including children. He pledged to repeal Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. He said he'd overturn Roe versus Wade via appointing justices that would do that. He'd get rid of Common Core, which is like a standards-based system in the American education system. He promised to kill families of terrorists, which of course is a war crime. He promised to bring back waterboarding, which again is a war crime. He promised to severely limit immigration of Syrian refugees into the country, and he promised a ban on Muslims. So if he doesn't carry those out, he's going to look like a politician, as you say.
Exactly, he'll look like a classic politician.
But if he does carry them out, he'll be Hitler.
Well, he will. There's no doubt about that. It'd be the modern incarnation. Look, already most of those you can just see that's not gonna happen. He may be slightly more hardline and he might talk a big game, but he's not going to do any of it.
And the other thing I thought I'd show you really quickly, and this is, I think, iconic of Donald Trump at the moment and why people are nervous about him, because they don't know who they're getting. So on the, let's bring up Q4. This is a tweet that he sent out about the protests against him. Just had a very open and successful presidential election. Now professional protesters incited by the media are protesting. Very unfair. Now that's fair enough. I actually think there's an element, if you were one of those people who was concerned that he wouldn't promise to abide by the result, right, and now you're protesting against him, what you're doing is you're not abiding by the result. So there is an irony there of not hypocrisy. But the reason people are concerned is he's just basically said the protesters are being unfair. Literally 8 hours later, right, he sent out this tweet, which is the opposite. Love the fact the small groups of protesters last night have passion for our great country. We will come together and be proud.
Well, here's
8 hours later.
Look, when people are worried about him having his finger on the buttons or hovering over the buttons, so to speak, right? Worried about someone like that. I mean, he shouldn't have his finger hovering over Twitter either, seriously. I mean, wasn't he basically banned by his people from using it in the last 48 hours before the election? Advisedly so. They really should have people screening this sort of stuff because he's just full of double standards. He's all over the show. He's got the White House.